Imagine a 300-pound beast sobbing over a dead kitten, curing a legendary comedian's depression, and chillingly explaining the afterlife in just 3 words. This heartbreaking true story will completely shatter your illusion of human superiority. You will never look at animals the same way again. GSEZARA nu toi noi voi ban rang, ton bo su kio han 6 di not qua loi nuoi chung ta. Thursday ran gioi kien ko doak vak ra de din 66 tri thuong dang qua, con nuoi, va hat hui and hung sin men kok suang tang de qua, da Thursday, vo tri, tuk chat chila emotivoi noi doi tot kung gao man. Say ra sa nu moi din kien kot loi not vmot tom han beat kok, beat dao, beat cow kot yu thuong va tam chi thou hua su tin lang quat sai chet, li by dap tan hon ton boi emot sin men mang hin hai qua k Thursday kong lo, sin ra sao and hung song sat na to lan leo. Ham ne, chung ta se kong noi vmot con vat. Chung ta se lat geo mot ho so chan dong vmot lin han by jayam cam, mot di su 6 di by lang quain de buk qua lan ran qua tau hoa de de cho con nuoi beat den am watuk su la, nan tin. Mot ka chien and chua and hung su that ton nan va sie and hung fep mau dam nuak mat. Ma toi the voi ban, emotikai de lang ne den and hung ga foot koi kung, the gioi quan qua ban ve su song tren han tin nai se vin vin thay doi. Truak kai chung ta kung now buk qua rao kan qua jong loi de chan veo tan kung noi dao va su 6 di qua sin men I. Hey dan motga nan nut dang ky ken va bat chuang thong bao da ung ho, tip them cho chung tua ong wan dong luk to lan jup ken tip tuc mang dan and hung ka chien phi thuong by thoi john vui lap ne. De la mot ka chien ko that, duak viet bang mao, noak mat va ca su tuk ten. At vong en gien chan 03 men chow qui 6 va kak ban, Hey kung tua nam mat lai trong emoti koan kok, Detroit dat v emoti. Gay mang dam tin bu tuong qua su tu du, gay 4 thang 7 nam 1971, dung veo dip quat con qua noak mai, tai emot gok quat qua so Thursday San Francisco, emot sin lin bi no uot de cat tiang kok chow doi. Bao kong kai luk bei geo tren gap emoti Thursday hai vong mong man and hung ruk aro, Keen and hung nuoi chung kien de treo cho ko beat sai ten, hanabiko, trong tiang not mang y nialot dua tre feo hoa. Ho mong mse ko mot kuok doi bung no, ruk sang va kio han vuan min. En hung tiro tru thay, tau hoa duong nu luan tik tru dua voi and hung sin men bino. On sang feo hoa chua kip lo len ti tuk tai ton kok de doi motigao nuak lan but gia veo kuok doi qua hanabiko, hate sai ten ma sao na ca nan loi fi enging min nak den, Koko. Tuoi tho qua Koko kong fi la moti buk tran de mau sak nut sai ten qua ma la moti thuak fim xm zit, no mau uem qua ben tat va su choi bo den that long. Nai tu en hung thang gay so sin con du han, Koko de phi gong min chong choi voi mot kan ben duong ruat kac de doa truck tip den sin mang. Den yo ju dua tre o lai voi the gioine, kak bacsi Thursday y de buk phi dua ra mot quiet din ton nan, John Koko ra koi vong te ap u qua mi ruat de dua d catch ly vat u tri tich cuc. Koang doi John chia cat ytei, du zut fat tu tin thuang qua con nuoi, li vio tin koet emotivet nut sao home, cat da vin vin soi de lin ket mau tu thiang liang. Kai Koko chien tang tu than va doak bi tro li, on mat cow kot hoyam qua dua tre so sin de vap phi emoti su lan lung den ton nan. Mi qua by chi foi boi ban nong sin tun va and hung qui tak xa hoi kot ki qua bei dan hong da, de lui lai. But choi bo jayat mau qua chin min. Su xa catch de zoa noa mui hong, zoa noa mua ban. Nong che cho. Koko chin tuk tiaro ton mot dua tre mo koi nai kai nuoi mi ruat van kon dang dung sung sung truak mat. Ko tu ga food and geet na I, tuoi tho qua m by dong din trong mot ku chuang chat hep, bao quan lan hung song sat lan leo va su im lang den dac quan, dang so. Kong ko bao sua mi, kong ko and hung tsai omvove. Kong ko su bao boc qua dong loi de hok catch lon len. The gioi qua ko kai dot no bi by Thursday hep lai trong tan kung qua su ko da. Moi kai bong toi ap surang, the zoa jo di noi dao qua mot tre tim them kot tin thuang, Koko chi bi quan tron than him be no om gok tuong, doi te om chat lay and hung con bup be noi bong vo tri vo giak. Kung kanayam on den muc no nu mot not dao qua veo tom kan qua bat kyai ko luong tri. Mot sin men ko tri Tuesday, ko nan tuk lai by not trong bong toi qua su jiam cam, doi thop bam vio veo and hung mon du choi jia tau da the the cho bo vai qua mi. Tua thuan tu hoi, trong and hung dem dai lan leo du, tom han bi no I defy doi dien voi su trong rong dang so den wong now. Chuang chung nu kuok doi qua Koko se my truet dai trong su ko lap, dan thui chat moi ban nong va lui ton nu bao con vat vo dan kok chet mon sao chan song so Thursday. En hung din men de kong cho fep dua duze ra de sao qua tuet vong luon la noi hat mam qua and hung dua 6 dai ne no.
Instead,
Mot kuok gap go lich su dang lang lu tien den, mang theo mot luong on sang choi loa sap sua fa tan su tin lang qua bong toin guk tu. Kuok gap go I kong chi de jai q tom han qua, dua tre feo hoa, ma con koi dao cho mot con ja chan vo tien koang hao, lam rung chien va dao lon hon ton moi din kien gao man qua nan lo iv the gioi tu nin. Just as the walls of that cold, silent enclosure threatened to suffocate the last embers of Koko's spirit, destiny intervened in the form of a young psychology graduate student who refused to look at a gorilla and see merely an exhibit. In 1972, Francine Penny Patterson walked into the San Francisco Zoo, unaware that the small, sickly, and utterly isolated primate she was about to meet would not only redefine the trajectory of her entire life but would fundamentally shatter the linguistic walls dividing humans from the rest of the animal kingdom. Penny did not look at Koko with the clinical detachment of a researcher examining a subject. She looked into those deep, sorrowful brown eyes and saw a conscious mind screaming silently in the dark, desperate for a bridge to the outside world. And so, Penny made a decision that the scientific community of the era deemed utterly absurd. She decided to give this orphan gorilla a voice. The endeavor began not with grand scientific proclamations, but with profound patience. Penny introduced Koko to American Sign Language, ASL, hoping to bypass the biological limitations of a gorilla's vocal cords to tap directly into her cognitive processing. At the time, the reigning dogma of linguistics, championed by towering figures like Noam Chomsky, dictated that language was an exclusively human domain. Animals, the arrogant consensus claimed, could only be trained to mimic behaviors for a reward. They could not grasp syntax, they could not express abstract thought, and they certainly could not articulate the quiet musings of their own souls. But Koko was about to dismantle that hubris, one deliberate hand gesture at a time. It started with simple, survival-driven concepts: food, drink, more. Yet, what began as a trickle of basic communication soon cascaded into a torrential downpour of cognitive revelation.
By the early 1980s,
Koko wasn't just memorizing gestures for treats, she was internalizing the very essence of language. The true paradigm shift occurred when Koko began to encounter objects for which she had not been explicitly taught a sign. If the skeptics were right, Koko should have been stumped. Instead, she did what any intelligent human child would do: she invented. When presented with a ring, she signed finger bracelet. When she needed a brush, she called it a scratch comb. A mask became an eye hat. These were not random flukes, they were the undeniable manifestations of a brilliant, creative mind actively combining known concepts to describe a complex reality. As I trace the timeline of Koko's linguistic explosion, I am constantly struck by the sheer magnitude of what was happening. Here was a creature, born into the lineage of wild beasts, sitting in a room, casually inventing compound words and engaging in two-way conversations with a human being. She eventually mastered over 1,000 signs and understood roughly 2,000 words of spoken English. But the most breathtaking aspect of this linguistic awakening was not Koko's vocabulary size, it was her use of language to express the intangible. She began to articulate her internal landscape. She could tell Penny when she felt happy, when she was sad, and, heartbreakingly, when she felt lonely. She possessed a sense of humor, often playing practical jokes and signing fake or joke afterward to show she was deliberately deceiving her caretakers for amusement. She even understood the concept of past and future, reflecting on events that had already occurred and anticipating those yet to come. The profound realization that struck Penny, and eventually the world, was that Koko was not a parrot echoing human words, she was a sovereign entity, a thinking, feeling individual trapped in a hairy, imposing physical vessel. Through the bridge of ASL, Koko had effectively grabbed humanity by the shoulders and forced us to look her in the eye, proving beyond a shadow of a doubt that the lights were not only on inside that massive head, but that a brilliant, roaring fire of consciousness was burning brightly. The firework child had finally found her spark, and the resulting illumination was blinding. Yet, as Koko's vocabulary expanded to encompass the complex depths of her emotions, it inevitably gave voice to a profound, primal yearning that language alone could not satisfy. While the ability to converse bridged the intellectual gap between Koko and humanity, it was her desperate, aching desire to nurture that entirely obliterated the emotional divide. By the early 1980s, Koko had grown into a massive, powerful adult gorilla, yet the trauma of her own maternal abandonment lingered like a phantom ache in her massive chest. She began to express an intense desire for a baby. She would cradle her dolls with a gentleness that belied her immense physical strength, but plastic and cloth could not respond to her affections. When she repeatedly signed baby and sad, the researchers attempted to placate her with a hyperrealistic toy cat. Koko's reaction was a devastating blow to anyone who still doubted her emotional complexity. She did not play with it. She took one look at the lifeless toy, signed sad, and refused to engage. She did not want an object, she wanted a life. She wanted something to love that could love her back. In the summer of 1984, for her birthday, Koko was finally granted her ultimate wish. From a litter of abandoned kittens, she was allowed to choose a companion. She gently bypassed the others and selected a tiny, tailless, gray and white Manx kitten. Because the kitten looked like a fluffy sphere, Koko, utilizing her linguistic creativity, named him All Ball. The footage of Koko and All Ball is something that, to this day, brings a lump to my throat. Here was a 300-pound apex primate, capable of crushing a human skull with a casual swipe of her hand, delicately holding a fragile, ounce-weight kitten against her chest. She would tickle him, try to nurse him, and carry him tucked gently in her massive thigh. When researchers asked Koko about the kitten, she signed, soft, good, cat. They were inseparable. Koko had finally become the mother she was never allowed to have, and in doing so, she shattered the myth that cross-species empathy and delicate maternal care were exclusive patents of the human soul. But as we all know too well, a heart open to love is a heart exposed to unimaginable agony. The beautiful, tender world Koko had built with All Ball was violently ripped apart just a few months later. On a foggy December morning, the tiny kitten managed to slip out of the research facility and wander onto a nearby highway, where he was instantly killed by a passing car. The responsibility of delivering this crushing news fell to Penny Patterson. How do you explain the sudden, violent finality of death to a gorilla? Penny sat with Koko and gently told her that All Ball had been hit by a car, and that he was gone and not coming back. At first, Koko's reaction was eerily stoic. She signed, bad, sad, bad, and, frown, cry, frown, sad. But it was what happened after Penny left Koko alone for the night that forces us to confront the deepest, most uncomfortable truths about animal consciousness. Left to process the crushing weight of her loss in the darkness, Koko did not just exhibit signs of stress, she mourned. Audio recordings from that night captured sounds that continue to haunt the scientific community and anyone who hears them. It was a high-pitched, rhythmic, chest-heaving wail. Koko was sobbing. It was the raw, guttural sound of a mother mourning the loss of her child, echoing through the facility, tearing through the silence of the night. In that agonizing symphony of grief, Koko proved that the capacity to suffer a broken heart is not a human privilege. The pain she felt was indistinguishable from the pain any human mother would feel. She understood the permanence of the loss, the agonizing void left behind by a loved one. The story of Koko and All Ball made international headlines, not merely because it was a quirky tale of an unusual pet, but because it held up a devastating mirror to our own species. It demanded that we recognize the profound emotional stakes of the lives we so casually subjugate. Koko's tears washed away the last lingering defenses of human emotional superiority, leaving us humbled in the face of a grieving gorilla. This profound capacity to feel, to mourn, and to connect, however, was not limited to her immediate circle. It eventually extended to one of the most beloved and complex human beings on the planet, leading to an encounter of unprecedented empathy. Koko's grief over All Ball was a defining chapter in her life, but as the years progressed, her emotional intelligence evolved into an extraordinary empathy that allowed her to read the emotional states of others, including humans. By 2001, Koko had experienced further losses, most notably the sudden death of her lifelong gorilla companion, Michael. She was mired in a deep, prolonged depression. She stopped smiling, her signs became sluggish, and the vibrant spark of the firework child seemed dangerously close to burning out. It was during this dark period that the facility received a visit from a man whose very existence was dedicated to bringing light to the world, the legendary actor and comedian, Robin Williams. When you watch the footage of this historic meeting, you are not watching a celebrity interacting with an exotic animal, you are witnessing two brilliant, sensitive minds recognizing the shared weight of existence in each other's eyes. Robin, a man who harbored his own profound internal struggles beneath a veneer of manic comedy, approached Koko not with fear or spectacle, but with immense respect and a quiet, gentle energy. Koko immediately sensed something uniquely kindred in him. Within minutes, the heavy veil of depression lifted. She engaged with him, grabbing his glasses, inspecting his pockets, and initiating a game of tickle. For the first time in 6 months, Koko smiled.
Bye.
She laughed. Robin matched her energy entirely, engaging in the play with the pure, unadulterated joy of a child. It was an astonishing cross-species communion, two incredibly complex emotional beings finding a fleeting, beautiful solace in one another's presence. Robin later described the experience as mind-altering and unforgettable. But the profound connection forged on that sunny afternoon in 2001 would return years later, cloaked in tragedy, to reveal the most staggering depth of Koko's philosophical comprehension. In August 2014, the world was brought to its knees by the shocking news of Robin Williams' death by suicide. The researchers at the Gorilla Foundation faced a daunting dilemma: should they tell Koko? Given their documented connection, they felt she had a right to know. When Penny Patterson answered a phone call confirming the news, Koko, observing her caretaker's sorrowful demeanor, signed, "Cry lip," meaning a woman crying. Penny then sat down and explained to Koko that their dear friend Robin had passed away. Koko's reaction was immediate and heavy. She became very quiet, signing only 2 words, "cry" and "woman." She then bowed her head, her massive shoulders slumping under the invisible weight of the news, and her lower lip began to quiver. The gorilla was grieving the comedian. This moment inevitably leads to the most chilling and awe-inspiring question of Koko's entire existence: what exactly did she understand about death? Years prior, a caretaker had asked Koko a question that most philosophers struggle to answer. The caretaker asked, "Where do gorillas go when they die?" Koko, without hesitation, signed 3 distinct words that continue to send shivers down my spine every time I think about them. She signed, "Comfortable whole, bye." Comfortable. Whole. Bye. Let those words sink into your consciousness. It is a concept so stunningly profound, so poetically stark, that it rivals the existential musings of the greatest human thinkers.
Why?
She did not express fear. She did not express confusion. She understood the return to the earth, the peace of the final rest, and the permanence of the departure. In 3 simple gestures, Koko dismantled the notion that abstract, existential contemplation is an exclusive human trait.
Thank you.
She understood her own mortality.
Begin our work together.
She understood the mortality of those she loved. She carried the existential weight of living and dying with a quiet, dignified grace that should bring humanity to its knees in reverence. Armed with this unimaginable depth of wisdom and empathy, Koko lived out her twilight years not just as a survivor, but as a sage whose final departure would leave an unfillable void in the consciousness of the world. Every spark, no matter how brilliantly it illuminates the dark, eventually must succumb to the night, and on a quiet Tuesday in June 2018, the extraordinary firework that was Koko finally completed her display. At the age of 46, resting in the sanctuary of the Gorilla Foundation in the Santa Cruz Mountains, Koko passed away peacefully in her sleep. She slipped into the comfortable hole she had so beautifully articulated. Years before, whispering her final bye to a world she had forever changed. When the news of her passing broke, it was not merely treated as the loss of a famous zoo animal. There was a genuine, global outpouring of grief. People from all corners of the earth, across different cultures and languages, paused to mourn the loss of a gorilla. Why? Because Koko was never just an animal to us. She was an ambassador. She was the mirror we desperately needed to look into to see the reflection of our own flawed humanity. Throughout her remarkable life, Koko forced us to confront the darkest, most uncomfortable corners of our collective arrogance. For centuries, we built our civilizations on the bedrock of a dangerous fallacy, the belief that humans are the sole proprietors of reason, emotion, grief, and language. We used this self-appointed superiority to justify the destruction of habitats, the caging of magnificent beasts, and the silent, ongoing genocide of the natural world. But Koko, armed with nothing but a vocabulary of signs and an impossibly expansive heart, tore down that citadel of human exceptionalism. She proved that the barrier between us and them is not a fortress of stone, but a fragile veil woven by our own ignorance. She taught us that the desire to hold a baby, to love a fragile kitten, and to weep when that love is taken away, are universal pulses of life, not human inventions. She showed us that laughter can echo across the evolutionary divide, as she tickled a depressed comedian back to joy. She demonstrated that the contemplation of our own inevitable end is a burden shared by the creatures we so often dismiss as unthinking beasts. Koko's legacy is not just the thousands of signs she learned, it is the brutal, beautiful truth she inscribed onto the human conscience. She demanded that we expand our definition of personhood. As I conclude this journey into the life of Hanabiko, I ask you to reflect on what her existence truly meant. If a gorilla can learn our language, mourn a kitten, comfort a grieving human, and philosophize about death, what does that say about the millions of other creatures currently suffering in silence, locked behind bars, or running out of space in our rapidly shrinking wildlands? They may not have Penny Patterson to teach them how to sign, but make no mistake, they feel, they fear, they love, and they mourn. Koko was the voice for the voiceless, the definitive proof that we share this planet with other conscious nations, moving alongside us in the great, mysterious dance of existence. The story of Koko is a testament to the resilience of a spirit born into captivity but destined to change the world. It is a story written in the quiet gestures of a giant hand, in the tears shed for a tiny cat, and in the profound silence she left behind. So, the next time you look into the eyes of an animal, do not look down from the pedestal of human arrogance. Look across. Look deeply. And remember the firework child, who reached across the chasm of species, took our hands in hers, and quietly, patiently, taught humanity what it truly means to be humane. The remarkable journey of Hanabiko, the firework child, transcends the boundaries of a mere scientific experiment. It stands as a profound testament to the interconnectedness of all conscious life. From her early days dismantling linguistic barriers with American Sign Language to her heartbreaking maternal devotion to a tiny kitten named All Ball, Koko shattered the deeply entrenched scientific dogma that relegated animals to unfeeling, unthinking automatons. She did not just memorize gestures for treats, she articulated joy, profound sorrow, humor, and even the abstract permanence of death with a staggering, poetic clarity. Her historic bond with Robin Williams and her subsequent grief over his passing further cemented the undeniable truth that empathy, depression, and emotional resonance are not exclusive human privileges. Ultimately, Koko served as a magnificent ambassador for the natural world, holding up a mirror to human arrogance and demanding a broader, more compassionate definition of personhood. She proved that beneath wildly different physical forms lies a shared tapestry of emotional depth, existential awareness, and an innate desire for love and connection. Koko's extraordinary life challenges us to permanently discard our anthropocentric worldview and recognize the silent, vibrant consciousness pulsing throughout the planet. Her enduring legacy is a powerful, lasting plea for universal empathy, urging us to recognize the souls behind the eyes of other species and to treat all creatures with the absolute dignity and respect they inherently deserve. True empathy requires us to dismantle the pedestal of human exceptionalism. Koko taught us that the capacity for deep emotional pain, profound love, and existential grief is not a purely human trait, but a universal language of conscious life. We share this planet with deeply feeling beings who experience the world with a richness and intensity parallel to our own. Practice mindful compassion, extend your empathy beyond human circles. Whether interacting with a household pet, a stray animal, or observing wildlife, treat them with the fundamental understanding that they possess rich internal emotional lives and are fully capable of feeling fear, pain, joy, and love. Conscious coexistence, let this awareness shape your daily choices. Support ethical practices regarding animal welfare and habitat conservation. Recognize that advocating for the environment is not just about saving trees, it is about protecting the homes of conscious, feeling nations. Listen to the unspoken. Just as Penny Patterson paid attention to a gorilla's silent yearning, practice active observation with the people and creatures in your own life. Often, the deepest pain and the most profound love are communicated through body language, presence, and nonverbal cues rather than spoken words. If you could teach any animal one single word or concept to help them communicate with humans, what would it be and why? Please share your thoughts and perspectives in the comments section below so we can all learn from each other's ideas. If this story touched your heart, please consider subscribing to the channel to support our work and give us the motivation to bring you more inspiring content in the future.